What does Fears of Fathom Scratch Creek hide off camera and behind the scenes from the player? In the 6th episode of Fears of Fathom, our characters Marcus and Tessa are packing it for a move, unaware that their plans are about to go not as intended. However, what stands out most with Scratch Creek versus the other episodes we've covered is that this game is actually co-op only. Double the fun, I suppose, unless you don't have friends. As we know with these games though, things aren't as they seem. It's dark and obscure, so there's a lot the player can easily miss. For instance, we'll be able to get a better look at all the characters we meet during this disastrous move, along with getting into places we're not exactly supposed to be in. We have quite a bit to check out, and of course break along the way as we put the game to the test. So I hope you enjoy this game-breaking look at Fears of Fathom Scratch Creek. Starting off, I'll hit you with very brief plot recaps. You can't currently play this game solo, so I joined a random player online at first. Playing as Tessa, I eventually found Marcus at the front door. Our first task at this point was to start collecting our belongings and storing them in the U-Haul we rented. At one point, Nate, our neighbor friend, will show up, commenting on how we're finally making the move and whatnot. However, we left him on read and headed to the basement, where there's one of 2 items that require both players in order to move it. It was pretty difficult to concentrate while doing this, between our laughter at the way our models looked and how easily we could lose our grip on the box. This caused us to drop it quite a few times. The couch was even worse though. Let's just say we definitely hit a snag when trying to get this thing into the U-Haul. This was a pretty accurate simulation of the stresses of moving, that's for sure. What is even happening? Getting all of our belongings, we then got the car running, hooked it up to the U-Haul, and began our trip. We weren't sure which way to go here, but when the screen faded to black when going left, we figured we were good, as it does lead to progressing through the game. Let's go back now and take another look at what we've just encountered so far. Back at the title screen, we've got a lot that can be explored. However, this whole scene is a future destination that we're nowhere close to yet. But as you can see, nothing is loaded in the main house that's here. So with that, I figured we'll just explore this part more so once we're actually at this scene in the game. At the character select screen, we can see that these 2 lovebirds are actually just floating out here in the great beyond, with this backdrop behind them as well. I deleted it, but outside of that, there wasn't much else I could do in this area. Playing as Marcus now, I loaded in while washing the car. Actually, I should probably note that while revisiting the areas we've already played through, I'm going to be playing as both Marcus and Tessa, which should be apparent from the goofy footage. Something else to note is that the walking animation breaks when I'm messing with the game, making for, well, this. Let's just say that she has on some futuristic Heelys. I must say, I initially got very sidetracked with the moving process, simply because of how goofy looking it was. I overall was definitely enjoying myself, as you can clearly see. I left Marcus in the street at one point, who wasn't visible for us, but as you can see, this caused quite the traffic jam. Similar to the previous Fears of Fathom games, the cars will travel the roads accordingly, but will eventually unload, basically where the road ends, as you can see here. I gave Tessa some supplements, which will help speed up this moving process. It was a glorious process, nonetheless, and given her facial expression, she's cool with it. Anyways, get out of here. While taking a closer look at Nate, the neighbor friend, pedestrian female 3 was sliding by, which is her given name within the game. Nate's not even called Nate within the files. He's referred to as Man-Rigged. I will say, I do like his mullet though. When it came to moving the bigger items to the U-Haul, I realized that it's not going to happen, seeing as I don't have 4 hands to control both characters. Using the, we'll just call it the Force, I eventually got the couch in the U-Haul. The box in the basement proved to be more difficult though, so I warped it right into the U-Haul instead. If only packing was this easy. Am I right? It was at this point that I put on my Air Jordans and began exploring the neighborhood with Marcus. It was pretty fun being able to leap over all the barriers that were in place for us, making it easier to get around the entire neighborhood. There wasn't much out here though. Nathaniel Manrignaniel caught me off guard when he started talking to us this time around. I had initially put him in the road and away from us, as I intended on running him over when we left, but here we are. Instead, we got this awkward goodbye after finishing the dialogue with him.
I'll miss you too!
It was quite the send-off for our friend that we never really knew. Until next time, brother. Tessa was jumping with joy when we left, as you can see, so now it's time to give our last goodbyes to our old neighborhood. Once Tessa gets settled in, of course. That works. You do you, babe. On our way out, I made a split-second decision to turn around, as I was going to attempt to drive the other way. That didn't work though, which resulted with the car getting stuck. Unglorious. However, as you're about to see, not all heroes wear capes. One of the NPCs comes sliding into the picture as I was trying to figure out how to get out of this. He knew the assignment, as he slid in and saved the day. Glorious. That came close to being a sad softlock. Looks like we're back on track though, so let's go ahead and continue from where we left off. It's 7:40 p.m. now and we're on the highway. As Tessa, the passenger of the car, we're tasked with helping Marcus with directions. There's literal signs of bad things to come, beginning with my partner not hearing me to take the exit. This immediately gave me anxiety from the good old days of Toad's Turnpike in Mario Kart 64. But as you can see, we managed to survive. We'll eventually be prompted to reroute by the GPS, having us take Cascade Highway. Dialogue will occur, but the scene will end as it's now 8:08 p.m. Quite a bit more driving happens in this next instance, but in time, a tree will end up falling down on the roadway, obstructing our path. This is where Tessa and Marcus will have to get out of the car and move this tree out of the street. I couldn't help but laugh here, because there's no way these two could do this. That's a pretty big tree. Noticing the light on at this house, I went up to it, which revealed the person who was watching us. They retreat into the house before we can interact with them though. How comforting. Let's take another look at what we just endured though. So when loading in this time, I noticed both Tessa and Marcus were in the passenger seat, which was funny to see. But let's take a look around here. I for sure thought that there was going to be a penalty for getting out like this on the highway, but it looks like we're in the clear as we obstruct traffic with zero consequences. So one by one, we leap our way over these invisible barriers to get on the other side of the highway. There are things over here to check out between the buildings, trees, and tree sprites, but as you can see, they have no collision. Nor do they have any interior, to no surprise of course. I love how we can hear how fast our feet sound while moving with the power-ups we were given. Take a listen. Realizing there's not much else to do over here, we leaped back over the barriers and made our way to the car to continue on. However, this is when I realized, after looking more closely within the game, that each player has both models of Tessa and Marcus within them. So I enabled the visual of Tessa's Marcus, which resulted with Marcus appearing overlapping Tessa. This made for quite a goofy sight, and as you can see, I was having a bit of fun with it. We all know those couples that are, as they say, attached by the hip, and these two quite literally are. Enabling Marcus as Marcus, however, results with us basically being inside him. Yes, it felt weird saying that out loud, I know, but it's even weirder to observe. Talk about looking within yourself. While messing with this, I then tried making Tessa wide. Apparently, the model didn't like this, as her left leg began to contort a bit. For context, both character objects can accommodate Tessa and Marcus, given your game is also tracking whoever your second player's character is too. However, from your view, your head won't show up to accommodate your first-person camera, unlike your second player from your perspective. Moving along, we can see the highway we normally take, but we can also see how this first exit leads to a dead end. So I had to see what happens when taking this exit. As you'd guess, the game fades to black, prompting us that we took the wrong exit and resetting this instance. Getting back on track though, we aggressively continued on. I guess it's impossible to get in a car accident here, as I tried my hardest to do so on multiple occasions. Similar to the wrong exit from before, we can see how all the wrong paths basically lead to dead ends, which we never reach anyway, assuming they all make us fade to black. The whole instance itself doesn't have much going on out of bounds, as you can see from this view. However, this didn't stop us from enjoying the ride. Get it, Tessa? In the next scene, I took the camera for a stroll, as I got a better look at the entirety of this section. I learned that this body of water we end up passing is actually explorable without breaking the game, and there's no drowning for this couple either. Also, if you follow the invisible barriers here, under the water, you can slip through a spot that was missed, allowing the player to really get out of the map. Of course, you'd normally not have the speed that we have, and I'm sure it'd be a lot harder to see with the typical game view. Moving on to where the tree falls down, I definitely wanted to get a closer look at this house that's here. It's pretty vacant as you can see, with no one in it, for now at least. It's only until we get to the fallen tree that we'll see a person on the porch staring at us. It's a grumpy old little bald man who doesn't seem happy to be seeing us. While exploring Buck's properties, as he's called, I found another model within him. He has no name, but this does come full circle, as you'll see who this is eventually. If you haven't already guessed, that is. I deleted the tree, thinking I'd be slick, but you'll see how this doesn't work out soon. However, I sped my way up to Buck and try to catch him as Marcus. Come to find out, he just walks in here and starts power walking in his empty family room. With Marcus up here, we'll see that he just does this indefinitely. There's simply no way to interact with him. I ended up soft-locking myself here though, because of deleting that tree. The car continues to behave as if it's still there. And yeah, in result, we can't move the car, nor can we move the tree now. Let's reset back and continue on from where we left off though. Further up the road after removing the tree is a gas station that looks abandoned, which definitely ends up not being the case. We'll get jump scared by this homeless guy. He's basically just rude to us throughout this entire exchange. Getting back on the road though follows with our car experiencing issues, as a truck begins to tail us aggressively. It's panic-inducing, but eventually the truck passes us as we enter another time lapse. It's now 8:52 p.m. and our car is clearly struggling. There's a more lively gas station up ahead though, which we'll want to investigate. No one's inside, but out back, we can hear some type of power tool being used. Looking for assistance results with a jump scare by this guy, who, if I had to say, is passive-aggressive. He does take a look at our car though. At first he claims it's an easy fix, but then his boss shows up, pulls him aside, and when he returns, he suddenly claims the car has bigger issues, stating that he can't fix it. Giving us a temporary fix, they direct us to Bill's house, who should be able to help us, which is just down the road. Once arriving at Bill's home is when we meet Charlotte. Is this where we disappear now? Kidding aside, Bill ends up coming out and gives us his diagnosis of the car from the porch, which is yet again another red flag. Now we're instructed by them to take a path through the woods, which will lead to Miss Julia's, a bed and breakfast. At least they gave us a flashlight. Yay. While taking this path into the woods, a deer will run by in front of us. It came from near this creepy shrine that we can find. Not strange at all. This is where another time change occurs though, and is also where we'll stop, to go back through everything we just encountered. We just got done breaking and entering into this creep's house, but can now move on from the fallen tree I was having issues with before. So we're able to get a clearer look now at this abandoned gas station that has the stranger. The stranger in here ends up being a familiar face too, as it's the same unnamed model that was attached to Buck back at the house we were just at. I'd say this guy is one of the more kinder looking individuals. His dialogue with us says otherwise though, but this model is referred to as Hobo NPC. He ended up freezing before I messed with him, but he normally will walk out of this room he was in when our dialogue is done. He then walks to the tent here. So before leaving, we moved him over to his tent ourselves, because we believe in kindness. At least his tent will feel more spacious now. This is when our car begins smoking, but I gotta say, the trees were looking wild during this part. How is Mother Nature not destroying us right now? It's also when this aggressive driver will show up, who ends up tailing us, as we can see them spawn in behind us here. Unfortunately, there is no driver in the vehicle when taking a closer look. I was really hoping to possibly see someone we've encountered, or will encounter. Like, what if our neighbor friend was behind all of this? What a twist that be. Anyway, I messed with the truck, thinking it may result in a death scene or something, but it'll simply stop behind us. I eventually got out of its way before it passed us by the motels, which resulted with it speeding off, as it normally would have. What a jerk. It travels down this road for a bit, but does eventually unload. Up ahead, I was hoping to have some type of Schedule 1 encounter here by the motel, while investigating with Marcus and Tessa. As you can see though, when looking within here, it's unsurprisingly like the rest of the buildings we've been checking out along the way. Empty. We're now approaching the end of the road here, which leads to the next instance. However, you'll see that we don't get that far down this road before unloading. Loading into the next scene, I went ahead and got an aerial view of this area, as we're on a square slab this time around. The first thing that caught my eye here was the giant incline that could be seen at the end of the main road. We would have taken this if our vehicle wasn't dying. There's quite the drop-off, and I couldn't help but be reminded of the old days of playing Roller Coaster Tycoon. There is a random guardrail outside the map here, which must have been left over if I had to guess. I thoroughly swept through the buildings in the vicinity of the gas station, and as you'd guess, did not find anything particularly worth noting. At Buck's Gas and Go, which is ironically out of gas, we can get an overall view of it, along with the mechanic who is basically just hiding, waiting to jump scare us. His soul patch and fanny pack make me uneasy. Let's not keep him waiting though, and get over there with Tessa and Marcus. There's no sneaking by this guy, as he'll bolt out at us like every other jump scare. Similarly to every suspicious character we meet in this game, we can definitely tell that Marcus's presence upsets him. The only other thing to note here is that Buck, the boss of the gas station, is the same guy we saw back where the tree fell into the road. It makes you wonder, did the tree fall on its own, or was it a trap of some kind? Did they mess with the car while we were dealing with the tree? It's definitely food for thought, because all the other trees seem to be handling the weather without falling. It's possible the tree incident just randomly occurred, but it's when Buck became aware of Marcus. Anyway, when they go to have their secret discussion, it was goofy to watch. Before heading for Bill's though, I went ahead and trashed Buck's place, because we all know they have some type of involvement with the situation Marcus and Tessa are in. Also, I don't care for the mustache he appears to have in the player's view. It definitely looks like a dictator we should all be aware of. Arriving at Bill and Charlotte's home, we can find them inside as they're enjoying each other's company. These two absolutely give me the creeps. They're obviously up to no good if you ask me, and this ain't our first rodeo. Nothing about this is comforting. After getting this bogus vehicle inspection, they'll go back inside to watch their TV program. They'll then just stand there like American Gothic, the famous painting from the 1930s. Knocking on the door after our encounter with them was fun though.
Get off my property! You knock on that door one more time and you'll regret it.
That's when I decided to break in. The hall actually dead ends here when making this turn. However, I was able to walk through it and join this lovely couple in their creepy isolation. Moving on, we head into the woods. This followed with goofing around with Tessa as I duplicated the deer we'll encounter. I wanted to see if I could create a conga line of them when we approached. This didn't work though, as the duplicating got them stuck, leaving us with this unintentional trippy deer creature that we've created. We're back to where we left off, so let's continue on as normal now. It's currently 9:58 p.m., and we'll make our way out of the woods to find that we've arrived at the oh-so-welcoming bed and breakfast. We'll be greeted by Miss Julia when knocking as she lets us in. It's an overall odd conversation, but once we finish the dialogue, she'll leave us to check on our room, as Marcus needs to use the bathroom too. While Marcus is gone, a distraught individual will come downstairs and express how everyone here is crazy, as he frantically leaves. I followed him as he fled the house, watched him get in his car, and then he sped off. A normal reaction for here, I imagine. Pretending like nothing happened, we'll get a brief tour of the first floor of the house, while being told to not open this door, as it's staff only. Once in the room though, the tension continues to build. Julia's words are delivered kindly, but felt threatening, as our character will say. Tessa will want to clean up at this point, and while bathing, the view, is not reassuring. What a lovely church of death. Tessa needs a towel to dry now, and for some reason, Marcus now needs to go to the church where the only towels are available. Right. So that's what the guy playing as Marcus does, as I watch him venture off. I will admit, this multiplayer aspect with the game does bring its own kind of fun. Someone knocks at the door though, but no one's there when looking through the peephole initially. However, this dude shows up, and I eventually let him in, as he just goes into the bathroom, then leaves shortly after being in there. After waiting quite a while, my partner finally came back. Our characters will argue over their trust issues, which follows with Tessa needing to go down and sign a guest book, along with getting a drink of water. After getting a drink, Miss Julia jump scares and confronts me about Marcus going into the staff-only area. Hurrying back to the room, Tessa then confronts Marcus about being in the basement and not telling her, causing more strain between the two, as we now need to sleep. Let's check all this out once again though. When loading into the scene, Tessa of course did so in a fashionable way. It was funny to witness, but the model corrected itself as soon as I moved her. As we've already seen, we're now in the area in which the main menu background takes place, and it has a lot of blank areas. I'm going to admit, from here on out, it got more and more difficult to manage both players on my own, as you'll see what I mean. We can find Miss Julia standing inside here, awkwardly waiting for us to knock at the door. But what really gave me a laugh here was this Mr. Hanky the Christmas cross that's hanging on the wall. Glorious! Before going in, I did some exploring on my own as I scaled the roof, which is when I found these guys hanging out in the back. They, look real happy to be here. This is when I broke into the house, which definitely ended up being a mistake, as it also broke the sequence of how things transpire here. I imagine this would be more funny if I was playing with a random person at this point, instead of controlling both people. However, Miss Julia doesn't care, and will answer the door like usual. After talking to her, she would not leave Tessa alone. I don't know how, but I must have broken the dialogue somehow, resulting with somewhat of a soft lock. I did get Marcus to the bathroom though, which prompted this guy to come running down to Tessa. He's referred to as guest in the game, but as you can see, I turned him into Miss Julia instead, which makes for a much more grand escape. T-pose and all. After the guest gets into the car, we can then see how it'll eventually just unload once it gets so far out, which is understandable. Despite the sequence of Julia being broken, I managed to get Tessa and Marcus into the room, where this goofball is, as he'll then leave the room. I was expecting this guy to unload shortly after leaving us, but he actually takes a fairly long walk here. He'll head to the back door of the house, go outside, and then power walk within this area, eventually stopping here as he hides in this bush. It was definitely curious. The game's officially softlocked now, sadly, and all I could do at this point is watch TV, so I decided to restart this instance. Doing this, we can see how the guest is initially standing in this empty room, waiting for his cue. Playing as Marcus this time around, I didn't get to witness this odd scene after using the bathroom, as it was even creepier with the models being broken. I finally got the couple into the room though, and got rid of Miss Julia.
You kids don't seem like the kind who would break a fine old tradition.
She'll make her way outside and towards this house back here, where she'll ultimately reside for the time being. We would normally be able to see her through our window while she makes this walk, but seeing her up close like this, we're able to see how her flashlight is shining from her chest. When Tessa goes in and out of the bathtub, we'll see how her model will simply unload and load back in during this. Does she really need a towel? Now it's time to check out what Marcus witnesses during this part, as this is technically my first time playing as him during this scene. There's a lot of invisible barriers out here, but that didn't stop us, because we still got them hops. With this, we can come over here and pop in to say hi to Miss Julia, who doesn't seem to mind as she just stands there. Oh yeah, back to Tessa, we'll see that the creeper that comes to our door is here, and we can see how he moves to the side when Tessa looks through the peephole initially, as he disappears and ends up at the end of the hall. He then warps back once she shuts the door. Back to Marcus though, we'll make our way down into this church, where we'll find some presumably damp towels. The door will lock behind us though, prompting us to find this secret door to a hidden tunnel, which leads all the way back to the house. Not suspicious at all. There's nothing we can interact with down here, at least to my knowledge. The tunnel exits into the basement of the house, and this is when an employee catches me coming out of it. Fast forwarding to when Tessa gets water, we can see how Julia will just load in here when she jump scares her. However, we're now back to the bedtime scene, so let's continue on. It's 3:33 a.m., and they have me, of course, waking up as Tessa. I have no communication with my teammate because he's asleep, so I head downstairs for water. The person playing as Marcus, while I was recording normal recap footage, messages me saying he was drugged, all while witnessing Miss Julia corroborating with what appears to be a sheriff. It unsurprisingly appears we're in a sundown town, which is absolutely bad news. Time to go find Marcus. My partner was clearly struggling, as I had to wait a minute, but eventually I got to the door and...
We need to go. Right now.
What?
Get out! Go, go, go!
I will say, our first attempt felt good when it started, but as you can see, this gets dire real quick. Unglorious. On the second attempt, we tried to take the tunnel that Marcus discovered, and once again, you'll see how it's a dark, locked door. Rest in peace. After a few more attempts, we ran around out back and weren't really getting anywhere. We finally realized, though, that we need to hide in these coffins down below. This is when it's confirmed that we're dealing with this whole town, as the sheriff walks in. He'll eventually leave, and that'll be the moment where we need to run for the front door. I almost screwed up towards the end of this chase, as I realized he was much closer than I thought. However, we made it to the next scene. Now, we need to avoid Bill as he's patrolling with a shotgun. Someone pulls up though, and we aren't sure who it is at first. He stays out to patrol when Bill goes inside, but we thought we had this in the bag, as we snuck into the car and floored it. Obviously, this doesn't work, since the car isn't in the best shape, and seeing that we didn't unhook the trailer either. Oof. Hiding in the U-Haul trailer is the way to go. Marcus and Tessa will get emotional in here, given what they just had to go through. Bill will call out to Buck, confirming that this is that store owner we ran into, and also is the guy that was peering at us from his house. He seems to be a central key to this operation they're running. However, I don't know why there's question marks for his name still. I mean, we just heard Bill call out his name. Once he was gone, we then detached the trailer and went pedal to the metal. Escaping this scene, we get closing remarks, and then a credits scene, reaching the conclusion of the game. So now it's time to take one last look at all of this, and as Marcus this time. After going to sleep as Marcus, I see why my partner was freaking out with the trippy visuals. The movement here is sluggish, and our view is obscured. Removing said filters, we can see how we're outside in this land of snow now. It's an isolated island in a sense when looking at it from afar. There's a few buildings, but not much else is occurring here. However, this is when I realized the players are actually pretty far away from one another during this part, with the conscious state of play being way over here. Only so much is loaded in though, given that we're playing as Marcus, as we're technically not over here. We can see these cultist guys that are hanging out, as they visibly converse, along with two more masked employees of the bed and breakfast. Advancing with Tessa is the only way to get Marcus out of this dream state. At least, this was my guess at this point. But you can see how Tessa got duplicated here for some reason. Is this part of the dream? We can find the sheriff that we end up encountering, just chilling on the porch, smoking a cig. There's also the guest who is back in his room. I guess this is Hotel California for him? However, my favorite was finding Miss Julia, who was stashed in this closet like she's Bender from Futurama, just charging her battery in here. When progressing further as Tessa, we'll see how Marcus's dream will transition. The snow is gone now, and yeah, that's Marcus. That capsule you see down there, which is common to see in this sense, as we've seen in other games. I managed to reach the church with him, but to my knowledge, nothing can be achieved here. Back over here though, we can see the Breakfast Club heading back to this church, which was funny to watch. Waking up as Marcus now, we can find that this dead duplicate of Tessa is still in the bed, along with this guy, who is fixing to kill Marcus. There's also an old version of Marcus beneath the bed. I don't know why it's here, but I tried rotating him to get a better view, but then things just got weird? I don't know, man. Enjoy these uncomfortable clips. Anyway, when the conversation between the sheriff and Julia takes place, we'll see how he warps over to her. Connor Hawkins is the sheriff's name, and when him and Julia are done colluding, he'll simply vanish into his cruiser. I was wondering why I wasn't getting murdered upstairs as Marcus during this, but then realized the killer was broken. This in turn broke the whole sequence of how our escape is supposed to happen too, which resulted in needing to reset the scene. When doing this, at the beginning of the dream sequence, you can see this figure in front of us. This was the only time I saw it while recording, and never managed to get a closer look in recorded footage. However, I can tell you what we're seeing is actually Tessa loading in, and then being warped to the conscious state of the map. Back from Dreamland though, I tried making Marcus invincible here, as this was going to be key to being able to navigate as both players during the big chase. Unfortunately, it wasn't working, as I still got destroyed. This guy will patrol the room until Tessa knocks on the door though. He'll see it's her, which results with him going into the hutch to hide from us. Now knowing I can't make myself invulnerable, I wasn't sure of my next move. I tried hiding them in the room with the guest, but as you can see, it didn't work. He was able to open the door to my surprise. Eventually I got an idea that ended up working. I slowed the game down by a lot, and then utilized the speed boost I had given to Marcus and Tessa. The slowed state of the game allowed me to manage both characters during this, all while the pursuers had no real chance of catching up. This was a tedious process for sure, granted I'm managing two characters, but it seemed to work. Eventually reaching the coffins, it's time to hide now. You okay, Tessa? You can clearly see that the assailant is moving significantly slower than we were though. You'll also see how the rest of these fools will spawn into the basement when trailing the initial creep. But here comes the sheriff. This is hilarious to see from this perspective, given that he somehow doesn't see us in these coffins. Although coming over here, we'll view how the rest of the gang will just linger in the tunnel, as the sheriff eventually joins in with their shenanigans. Time to make another run for it though, or rather, slow crawl. Luckily, it's the sheriff who will be the only one chasing us at this point, so I dual-wielded with our couple and began our escape from this awful house. Doing this chase like this felt like a fever dream in itself, if I'm going to be honest. But even in his final form, he couldn't get anywhere close to us. So long, Miss Hawkins. So with our final escape, knowing Bill has a shotgun, I wanted to see how he handles us. I couldn't help but chuckle because he just did what the rest of them do and ran me down, hitting me with a gun instead. I guess it wasn't loaded. However, what I found interesting here is the vehicle Buck shows up in. It ends up being the truck that was aggressively chasing us from before. I did not notice this previously, but it's all coming together. As you can see, I was trying to get Charlotte out of the house, but her model would not come out of that home, despite the size she was. It was funny to see Bill push her back further into the house though. Charlotte clearly can't watch their TV programs without him. When Buck goes into the house, we can see he struggles to get where he wants to, seeing as this normally wouldn't happen, given he's blocked at the moment. However, it's time to leave, as there's not much to reveal when doing so, other than Buck chasing us. As for the credits, it's just the same road we took when coming into this area. But with that, we've reached the end of Fears to Fathom Scratch Creek. I hope you guys and gals enjoyed this out of bounds take on the horror game, and I will catch you in the next video. Cheers!